This is a Southern Sin breaking news special. Be sure to like and subscribe now.
A woman convicted of cutting off a man's head and throwing it in the trash could get out of prison in as little as 15 years. We are breaking down this plea agreement that shocked the victim's family members, and we're going to break it down with a retired judge. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jeff Weber. Police in the Las Vegas suburb of Henderson, Nevada, say 46-year-old Devyn Michaels attacked the father of her children, killing him, and then cut off his head. 46-year-old Jonathon Willette's mother found his body at his home more than a week after he was last seen. He was lying dead without his head, and his body was actually smoking. Investigators believe that was from chemicals that Michaels had poured onto his body, possibly to cover up evidence. There were empty bottles of cleaner that were apparently found on the floor at the crime scene. Authorities say Michaels actually took Jonathon's head back to her own home before she put it in the trash. Prosecutors say it's believed that local garbage collectors unknowingly took the trash bag containing Jonathon's head, and at the time of this recording, that head has still never been found. Pretty graphic to talk about, but I do have to give you a little background on this family because it's complex, to say the least. So Devyn Michaels and Jonathon Willette, they had apparently been dating on and off for quite some time. They have two young daughters together. But Jonathon also had an adult son from a previous relationship, and Michaels ended up marrying him. Yeah, so in a way, he was both her stepson and her husband. It's complicated, I know. Now, they had all been planning to move in together. This is according to prosecutors, allegedly to make things more normal for the young girls. Jonathon's son reportedly told investigators that he and Michaels had gotten married so he could, quote, help her with her medical issues, but what exactly that might mean, it's unclear. Then we fast forward to August 15th, 2023. Head police arrest Michaels, and she is charged with Jonathon's murder. Now, Michaels reportedly told police that Jonathon was abusive, that he had tried to force her to perform a sex act on him. So she hit him in the head with some sort of stick. And a police report indicates that she told police that she didn't intend to kill him. She just wanted to hurt him enough that he would have to go to the hospital and she could figure out what she could do with her children. But that doesn't explain why Michaels cut off Jonathon's head and poured chemicals like ammonia and bleach on his body. Well, Jonathon's mother reported to police that when she found his body, a meat cleaver was missing from the kitchen. Jonathon's keys, wallet, bloody cell phone were reportedly found at Michael's place. And here's where things take another strange turn in an already bizarre and macabre story. Just days after Michael Jonathon, but before his body was discovered, she was in court on another case. So Michaels, who also goes by Tracy Tavares, was dealing with a child abuse case under that name. She was accused of abuse after her 8-year-old daughter told the teacher that her mother had given her a whooping. Now, Michaels spoke at that court hearing. Let's hear what she had to say.
I have done counseling classes, therapy, drug tests, psych evaluations. I've done everything. And everyone I've spoken to say I'm not an abusive person and they don't feel there's any risk for me to abuse her or would ever do this again.
So the judge ended up sentencing Michaels to 1 year of probation. But you know what happens? Michaels ends up in front of that same judge a year later, entering into a plea deal for Jonathon's murder. She pleads guilty to a second-degree murder charge. According to Nevada sentencing guidelines, she could face a sentence of up to life in prison, but she would have a chance of parole in just 15 years. The judge will have the final say at a sentencing hearing at the end of October. And for that, I want to talk about this a little bit more. I want to bring on retired New York City Judge Matthew Sciarrino to talk more about this. Judge, thank you so much for coming back here on Sidebar. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Now, before I talk about what the judge may or may not do here, just your overall reaction, impression to a case like this?
I think this has a bit to do with television and how to get away with murder and those other type shows. I think she made an attempt based on what she heard and felt to try to cover up this particular murder now that she's guilty with same. I also think that the convoluted nature of the family and the alleged abuse allegations are probably what prompted the plea deal and the prosecutors offering such a plea deal. Because as you know, prosecutors, when it's a very messy type of situation and family dynamic, they're a little bit worried that the jury might take that out on the victim, the person who was murdered, and give a kind of say a pox on everybody type of verdict. So I think a secure plea deal was the better way to probably handle this case in the prosecutor's mind.
Just to clarify that, are you saying that she might have been able to mount a defense here? Because the evidence looked pretty damning against her, no?
Evidence very much damning, but I also think that with a possible allegation of spousal abuse, she might be able to negate or mitigate some of the sentencing with regards to the case. And probably that would have been what the defense was, because spousal abuse in this type of case would be very, very common.
Hey, so I'm going to take a guess and say that a lot of you who watch Sidebar might be business owners, maybe even thinking of starting a little side hustle. Well, if that's the case, I want to talk to you about our amazing sponsor, Odoo. So Odoo is a free all-in-one business management software that provides you with a range of applications that helps with the day-to-day of owning a business. Now, as some of you might know, I'm the host and executive producer of a very popular YouTube show called Prime Crime. It's on our Law and Crime page. So this is like managing a business, and I want you to watch this. Say if we ever charge for Prime Crime, and clear we have no plans to do that, so don't worry, I could seamlessly and for free build a Prime Crime website with Odoo and put a built-in checkout page on the website with very little effort. Monthly subscriptions, it's even easier. Look how easy that was. 5 minutes later, I now have primecrime.com. So thank you to Odoo for sponsoring Sidebar, and thank you for getting me a Prime Crime website. You can build your website now. Domain is free for the first year when you use our link odoo.com/LCSidebar. I've actually seen cases before where someone is accused of murder and dismembering or getting rid of a body, and the jury would be that they panicked, that it wasn't necessarily a premeditated murder. They killed them, whether it was manslaughter or it was an accident or whatever it might be. And they might find them guilty of, with respect to abuse of a corpse or the disposing of the body or tampering with evidence, but they might actually find them not guilty of murder. So there is a chance that could have happened. But I am curious, when just the idea from a human point of view, I mean, it always shocks me that someone has the ability to chop a body up like this, cut someone's head off, somebody, the father of your children, somebody you had an intimate relationship with, to cut the head off their body. I mean, that's just so disgusting and sick, but fortunately, we see these cases.
Yeah, it's beyond macabre. I mean, it's how, picturing yourself trying to do some of those acts. I'm a vegan, so I really can't even picture doing that to animals. And it's one of the reasons after movies, etc. I've been a vegan now for 8 years, watching the farm factories and just the slaughter of pigs and cows, and so to do that to a fellow human being is beyond my understanding. That being said, fortunately I've been in the court situations where those were the allegations and those were the pictures and those are the things that you're showing to a jury, and I'm sure that the pictures in the case that were taken by the evidence collection team would have been quite a lot for the jurors to handle.
And that's probably also why prosecutors were like, if we can avoid a trial, we can avoid a jury seeing this, we can avoid prosecutors having to present this, we can avoid the victim's family members from having to be exposed to this. There's an advantage for them to try to have a plea deal in this case, right?
Absolutely, and maybe it's because from New York, I don't consider a 15 years to life sentence to be particularly light. And she very much will. The parole board in Nevada, I have a feeling, is probably pretty strict. And so even though she might be eligible in 15 years, doesn't mean that she's going to necessarily be paroled. Additionally, how much of a danger to the community is she? She apparently only picks on the people that are closest to her, as opposed to strangers at large. So 15 to life is a pretty it's not that light a sentence in my mind.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's amplify that. Assuming she only serves 15 years, good behavior, rehabilitated, circumstances of the killing, someone would look at that and say, she murdered this guy and she chopped his head off, and the head, maybe in 15 years, the head would be recovered. It doesn't seem like it's going to be recovered. One would say that seems like a lenient sentence.
And if she commits something else, guaranteed people will criticize the judge for giving such a light sentence with regards to the case. If she has no further issues with the criminal justice system, it probably will go unnoticed that she received such a light sentence.
But what are some of the factors that would work in her favor in terms of being released in 15 years? And what would be some of the factors that would work against her?
The being a good prisoner in that if she takes rehabilitative courses, maybe she gets a degree in something while she's in prison, if such programs are offered, if she's part of a therapy program, her acceptance of responsibility is a great factor with regards to mitigation. All of those are taken into account by the parole board when they make the determinations as to whether or not to release the person, whether the parole board feel they are a danger to the community that they are going to be released to, whether she has a program set up. Generally, it's a release to some kind of halfway house initially, where you'll have to find employment and make sure that you're no further risk to come to the criminal justice system. Also, I would imagine that there's a degree of parole supervision, which will result in her having to check in regularly. She might have to confine to house arrest for a particular period of time while on parole, or some kind of drug program, or any of those things that the parole board feel in the particular case are needed to make sure that she doesn't enter back into the criminal court system.
In these kinds of cases, would she ever be permitted contact or again if she's released?
In 15 years, they won't be children anymore. So I think at that point it would be up to whether or not her current children then will be young adults want to have that communication with her. But if she has young minor children, I doubt there would be unsupervised visitation. She probably will have the right while in prison to have some kind of supervised contact with the children, so that the bond is kept while she's in prison. But there'll definitely not be any unsupervised visitation or contact with any minor children that I could foresee.
And Judge, if you don't know the answer to this, completely fine. But if she's denied parole, if you don't know Nevada law on this, but generally speaking, when would somebody have another opportunity to parole?
Yeah, I don't know the specifics of Nevada. If you're denied parole, you are entitled to a hearing. You can, just like anything else, appeal that decision to whatever setup is in that particular state. In New York, enter into the court system where a court might say that the decision of the parole board was arbitrary, capricious, and therefore overturn that parole board's decision. So you would be able to immediately appeal it. Generally come up for other times 2 to 5 years, depending on the state.
By the way, and I can't confirm this, but a family, if the victim's family member is opposed to a plea deal, if they're opposed to that sentence, if they, say, look, 15 years to life, this is not what we wanted. How much say does a victim's family members have in terms of a deal being worked out?
They really have the ability to address their displeasure to the judge at the sentencing. It generally still can be done over the victim's family's objection, because the law in our country, basically, why it's the people of the state of New York, people of the state of Nevada against the person. The government is in control of the particular situation. Some states have stronger victim rights laws than other states. Some states, and almost every state at this point that I know of, does have the prosecutor must inform the victim's family of any plea deal, but they still are permitted in most states to, even over that objection, bring that deal to the court, and the court can of course factor that in, and in some states, the plea is worked out beforehand, where exactly what you're going to be sentenced to. In other states, there's still a bit of discretion to the court. In the federal courts, if you take a plea deal, you get certain mitigating factors for taking that plea deal, but the ultimate sentence is still 100% in the realm of the judge. In other states, the sentence itself is fully negotiated before you're even going to take a plea deal. It looks like Nevada, the judge does have some room with regards to what the sentence is going to be. So the victim's family, if they wish to make a victim impact statement, or just say that they're displeased and want the person to get more time, that would be taken into consideration by the court, but it would ultimately be up to the court to sentence.
Okay. Well, we'll see what happens at the sentencing hearing. Again, we believe it's the end of October. Judge Matthew Sciarrino, thank you so much for coming on. Great seeing you again.
They told you these stories didn't exist. We're here to prove they do. Real footage, real crimes. No filter. For more true crime from the South, be sure to like and subscribe to our channel at Southern Sin. You can also support more episodes by becoming a member of the Southern Sin channel, where you'll get early, exclusive access to crimes that mainstream media won't show you. Tune in for all new episodes every True Crime Tuesday at 9 p.m.